So, somebody wants to know about Linux code. In my, I have a zip file for Linux. You can uncompress my format. Anyway, in my kernel, in the ATA driver, I looked at Linux to get this code. However, all it is the ports for ATA protocol. So it's not really owned by Linux. If you study court cases, somebody tried to copyright a API. You can't do it. Linux did not craft this, and there's no alternative. It's just ridiculous. It's no big deal. 14-year-old lawyers confuse a copyright and a patent. Anyway, speaking of there's no Linux code in here. You can check the code. What do you think is Linux? It's so obviously different that it's silly. Somebody thought I took fat code. No, as a matter of fact, my fat has some corners cut on short file names. There's no fat code from Linux. I don't know why. Basically, I'm a lot better than most programmers, and it astounds me that they're so crappy. Anyway, so I wrote a compiler. That puts me above Linus. Linus had to use new. I wrote a 20,000 line, just in time, ahead of time compiler. Here's the back end. I already did a video or a couple videos on my compiler. Anyway, somebody wants, I had floppy code, but I got rid of it. That was from Linux. So there's not any Linux code in this operating system. That's why it's public domain. Anyway, that's pretty fucking greedy motherfucker. Son of a bitch, what a greedy fucker. Anyway, what an ego, man. He goes around, he's got quite the ego. Do you fucking talk to God? Did God pick you to write his fucking temple? Fuck you. Suck on this. This is God. Let's see what God says. Us showing fleshy continency amiss, fastidiousness, much uncleanness, mournful talk, henceforth unknown record, childhood, feareth smoke, attack, behold, imbibed, leaving, near, understands, posted, obscure, redeemed, lizard, remembers, speaketh, father, flood, even objections fall, we insight, rigidly pity, recollected, detached, pronunciation, mingled, like intimacy, commendeth, hated, fervent. He's anyway, what else is there in here? Yeah, this is an uncompressed, so you can uncompress my files from Linux. My file system stores .z compressed. I can't use GitHub. I don't have networking. My files are not ASCII. my files are, if you look at my games, let's go into here. My files have graphics. You can't. GitHub is ridiculous. Somebody put TempleOS onto GitHub, and they tried to pass it off as me or some shit. I don't know. Fucking cult, man. Get a real god if you're gonna do a cult. You know what I'm saying? Get a god. Anyway, fucking cult. I do use Linux now as my primary operating system. It works. Anyway, I was using Windows. Anyway, yeah, there's nothing really to talk about. I like to say, Linux is a semi, Windows is a car, and TempleOS is a motorcycle. And file permissions are not appropriate for, what do you call it, passenger class, not commercial class. Anyway, file permissions, I don't like file permissions. Anyway, you don't have a side airbag on a motorcycle. Mine is ring 0 only and identity mapped. I try to explain to people, imagine trying to take the drive shaft off a semi and put it on a motorcycle. You really can't steal anything from a semi and build a motorcycle. You take the pistons? No, you can't really take the pistons from a semi and put them on a motorcycle. So pretty much if you got a motorcycle, it didn't come from a semi. That's kind of... I try to explain to people, but they assume guilty until... Well, they just assume guilty. They just... I don't know. Oh, well. God, let's see.